An unusual girl, Violetta Morris, was born into the aristocratic family of a retired French army cavalry captain, Baron Pierre Jacques Morris, and his wife Elisabeth Marie-Antoinette Sakakini, whose roots went back to the Palestinian Arab lands. The young years of the future heroine were spent in the quiet church community of the town of Viii, where her character and worldview were formed. In the summer of 1914, or rather on August 22, her wedding to cyprien Edouard Joseph Gouraud took place in the elegant 8th arrondissement of Paris. However, the family idyll did not last long. In May 1923, the couple filed for divorce, but Violetta's real vocation was revealed during the First World War. Having mastered the art of driving a car, she devoted herself to a noble cause. She drove ambulances and worked as a courier. Her roots ran through the hottest points of the conflict, the bloody battles of the Somme and Verdun. Violetta Morris's sports career is striking in its scope and versatility. In football, she shone on the fields, defending the colors of the prestigious Femina Sports Club from 1917 to 1919, and then continued her triumphant career as part of the Pantin team from 1920 to 1926. Violetta's talent was recognized at the national level. She was honored to play for the French women's national team, where she proved herself to be an excellent player. Her athletic achievements reached their peak at the 1921 and 1922 Women's Olympic Games, where she won gold medals, proving her superiority on the international stage. However, football was only one facet of her athletic talent. Morris broke the gender stereotypes of her time. She became the first woman to be included in the French national water polo team, despite the absence of a women's team as such. In the boxing ring, she fearlessly confronted men, often defeating them. Her list of sports interests is impressive in its diversity. From road cycling and auto racing to aviation sports, from horseback riding and tennis to archery. She was professionally engaged in diving, swimming, lifting weights, and competing in Greco-Roman wrestling. The golden period of her sports career came in 1921 to 1924, when she lived by the motto, "Everything a man can do, Violetta can do." The highlight was her performance at the 1924 Women's Olympic Games, where she won gold in the discus and shot put, confirming her status as a female Terminator. In pursuit of excellence in motorsport, Violetta Morris made a radical decision. She underwent a bilateral mastectomy. She explained this step with the desire to achieve maximum comfort when driving a racing car. Her passion was grueling endurance racing, where she masterfully drove her Benjamin cyclocar. The list of her performances in motorsport is impressive in its scale and variety. In 1923, she challenged the participants of the legendary Tour de France. She regularly shone at the prestigious Bol d'Or competitions in 1922, 1923, and 1926 to 1928. She conquered the most difficult Paris-Pyrenees routes in 1922 and 1923, and demonstrated her skills on the Paris-Nice highway in 1923 and 1927. She attended the San Sebastian Grand Prix in 1926 and challenged the Dolomites in 1934. The crowning moment of her racing career was winning the grueling 1927 Bol d'Or 24-hour race at the wheel of Bollock, Netter & Company. In addition to her outstanding athletic achievements, she openly demonstrated her personality. She preferred a masculine style of dress, did not hide her homosexuality, was known for her passion for smoking, and frequent use of strong expressions. Her life has become a vivid example of the struggle for the right to be herself, despite social prejudice. 1928 was a turning point in the career of Violetta Morris. The French Women's Sports Federation has decided to deny her an extension of her sports license, which automatically closed her path to the 1928 Summer Olympics. The official reason was formulated as immoral behavior, and her predilection for men's clothing was especially emphasized. To this were added charges of assaulting a football referee and the alleged distribution of amphetamines among athletes. The blow to his sports career was compounded by the revocation of his license to participate in auto racing, again under the pretext of moral considerations. Trying to adapt to the new circumstances, Morris took an entrepreneurial initiative. She opened an auto parts store in Paris, where together with a team of enthusiasts, she assembled racing cars. However, this business project was not destined to succeed. Bankruptcy soon followed. In 1930, a dramatic legal battle unfolds. Morris files a lawsuit against the FFSF, demanding compensation for the lost opportunity to earn money by participating in competitions. The trial took an unexpected turn when an almost forgotten legislative provision from 1800 prohibiting women from wearing trousers was used against her. Historian Marie-Jo Bonnet notes a curious paradox. Although Morris's sexual orientation was not the direct subject of the charges, the issue of her wardrobe became the central theme of the trial. The situation was particularly piquant because Yvonne Netter, a well-known defender of French women's rights, was among the FFSF lawyers. Famous quote by Violetta Morris, uttered after the trial. "We live in a country rotten with money and scandals, where talkers, schemers, and cowards rule. This country of little people is unworthy of its ancestors, unworthy of survival. Someday corruption will bring us to the position of slaves, but if I'm still here, I won't be one of the slaves. Trust me, it's not in my nature." Despite her controversial reputation, Morris was a prominent figure in the cultural life of Paris in the 1920s. She created a circle of prominent representatives of the creative elite of that time around her. Among her close friends were such bright personalities as the legendary American dancer Josephine Baker, the charismatic actor Jean Marais, and the outstanding artist Jean Cocteau, who proved himself as a poet, writer, and director. The beginning of 1933 marked a new stage in the life of Violetta Morris. She and her partner Yvonne Debray settled on a houseboat with a romantic name, the Seagull, moored on the Seine near Pont de Neuilly, in a picturesque area in the northwest of Paris, near the famous Bois de Boulogne. With the funds from her inheritance, Morris discovered a new talent in herself. She became interested in lyrical singing. She has achieved notable success in this creative endeavor, and her performances have even been broadcast on the radio. However, his quiet life was disrupted by the dramatic events of Christmas Eve 1937. During a friendly lunch with neighbors Robert and Simone de Trobriand in a Neuilly restaurant, an unpleasant encounter occurred with Joseph Lecam, an intoxicated former legionnaire who was left without a job. An acute conflict broke out between him and Simone de Trobriand, which Morris managed to temporarily extinguish. But the events got an unexpected continuation the next evening. After another libation in Montmartre, Lecam appeared at the houseboat, where he had a confrontation with Morris herself. After leaving the scene of the conflict, he soon returned, noticing Simone de Trobriand, a participant in the previous evening's dispute. The situation has taken a threatening turn. Armed with a knife, Lecam rushed to the houseboat, threatening both women. After several attempts to push the attacker away, Morris was forced to resort to a revolver when he rushed at her. She fired 4 shots. The first 2 are warning shots into the air. The next 2 are at the attacker. Lecam later died in hospital, and Morris was arrested on murder charges. She spent 4 days in La Petite Roquette prison in Paris, located in the 11th arrondissement. The denouement came in March 1938, when the jury, taking into account the circumstances of self-defense, issued an acquittal. Violetta Morris's ties to Nazi Germany began to manifest themselves even before the war. In 1936, she received a personal invitation from Adolf Hitler to the Summer Olympic Games in Berlin, where, according to historian Anne Seba, she enjoyed the status of an honorary guest. The period of World War II and the German occupation of France became a controversial chapter in Morris's biography, which has been controversial among historians to this day. Her collaboration with the Nazi regime in the Vichy government is documented, but the extent and nature of this interaction remain a matter of debate. There are polar assessments of its activities during the war years. The writer Raymond Ruffin makes serious accusations, claiming that Morris played a key role in opposing the British Special Operations Directorate, which supported the French resistance. According to his version, she was not limited to espionage activities, but also took part in the torture of suspects, for which she was subsequently sentenced to death in absentia. Other researchers have a more restrained assessment. They point out that her cooperation with the occupiers was mainly limited to economic activities. She supplied gasoline for the Nazis through the black market, maintained a garage for the needs of the Luftwaffe, and worked as a driver for representatives of the Nazi administration and officials of the Vichy regime. It is noteworthy that she was engaged in similar activities before the occupation. Supporters of this version note the lack of documentary evidence of Raffin's accusations of espionage and torture, suggesting that Morris could become a convenient scapegoat, especially given her provocative statements from the pre-war period. Regardless of the true extent of her collaboration with the occupiers, Morris gained a sinister reputation, and she earned the infamous nickname Gestapo hyena. Violetta Morris's life ended dramatically on April 26, 1944, on a Normandy country road. On that fateful day, she was traveling in her Citroën traction Avant on the route Luray-Epain in the company of the Bale family, known for their ties to the Vichy regime. Suddenly, the car's engine made a strange hissing sound and stalled. As it turned out later, it was not an accidental breakdown, but the result of a deliberate sabotage carried out by French resistance, fighters from the Maquis-sur-Couf group. Events were developing rapidly. As soon as the car stopped, resistance members jumped out of hiding and opened heavy fire on the car. The tragic outcome of this ambush was 5 deaths, 3 adults and 2 children who were inside the car. Historians disagree about the true purpose of the attack. Raymond Ruffin claims that Morris was the main target. However, the historian Bonny casts doubt on this statement, pointing to the high status of the Bale family in Vichy circles, which makes them no less likely to be the target of an assassination attempt. The finale of Violetta Morris's life turned out to be as tragic as her last years. Her bullet-riddled body was taken to the morgue, where it lay unclaimed for several months. In the end, she found her last refuge in an unmarked common grave, a sad epilogue for the once famous athlete. Friends, it turned out to be such a video. Subscribe to the channel, put likes, write comments.